The day Victoria was set to marry that boy toy, the hospital called for her to come see me. She hung up the phone. Later, after the boy toy's successful heart surgery, she wanted to thank the donor's family. But when her best friend looked up the donor's information, he froze. Victoria, the next of kin section. It's your signature. The donor was Leo. With a sharp crack, the priceless jadeite pendant in Victoria's hand shattered on the floor. Only then did she realize she had missed her last chance to see him. The Grand Astoria Hotel was hosting a lavish wedding, complete with media interviews and a live stream. Amid the festive atmosphere, a jarring voice cut through the noise. Well, Ms. Lee, already moved on to a new husband? So the homewrecker finally gets his payday? The person asking was a young reporter. The room fell silent. Today was their 7th wedding anniversary. The ring on the new groom's hand was a priceless one Victoria had won for him at auction. The tuxedo he wore was tailored to Leo's exact measurements. Even the bride standing beside him was technically still Leo's wife. It was no wonder the reporter would ask such a question. Ethan nearly stumbled, but Victoria shielded him behind her, her face hardening. Keep spreading rumors like that, and I'll sue you for slander. But the reporter pressed on. How can you prove he's not a homewrecker? The live stream chat exploded. WTF, did the ex-husband send this reporter just to be a jerk? I feel so bad for Ethan. What kind of homewrecker would throw a huge public wedding like this? Ethan gently touched Victoria's arm. Maybe we should invite Leo over? I'd love to have his blessing in person, but I don't know if he'd be willing. Ethan had brought a child with him, and the wedding was indeed rushed. She hadn't even had time to file for divorce from Leo. Any attempt to defend herself would just make her look guilty. Only if her ex-husband showed up and gave his blessing would anyone be convinced. She nodded and sneered at the reporter. Fine, I'll get Leo to come here and tell you himself. Victoria pulled out her phone and unblocked his number. The phone rang and rang. No one answered. Furious, she fired off a series of texts. Did you send those reporters? I told you it was just a ceremony. Ethan has his kid with him. You need to get over here and clear this up. Hurry up, the guests are waiting. Stop playing dead. He wasn't playing dead. Half an hour earlier, doctors had pronounced him dead. He was now lying on a cold steel bed, an oxygen tube still in his mouth. The doctors were harvesting his viable organs for those who needed them. The rest of his body would be donated to a medical university to serve as an anatomical gift. He had signed the donation forms, telling them to make full use of everything. The clueless reporter was eventually escorted out by security. Ethan looked disappointed. I guess Leo still won't come and wish me well. Victoria, convinced Leo had sent the reporter, comforted Ethan and promised she would make Leo apologize to him. Just before it was time to go on stage for the vows, Victoria's phone rang. A strange woman's voice was on the other end. Is this Ms. Victoria Lee? What is it? Mr. Leo Johnson signed an anatomical donation agreement before he passed. His body is scheduled to be transported at 2 p.m. today. Would you like to come for a final farewell? No? Victoria scoffed. Are you trying to tell me that if I don't come, he won't make it? No, Ms. Lee, Mr. Johnson has already passed away. The live stream chat erupted in outrage. He had to pick his ex-wife's wedding day to die, didn't he? If he's dead, bury him. Why call his ex-wife? Is he threatening her from the grave? Drama queen. The ex is a real ghost that won't go away. So creepy. Just die somewhere else. Please. If he's dead, he's dead. Tell him to stop harassing me. Victoria hung up. Ethan walked over. Honey, was that Leo? Is he coming? Should we wait for him? He had always been gentle and considerate in front of Victoria, never showing a hint of jealousy. She placed a hand on his waist and said mockingly, see? I knew it. He wasn't going to let today be peaceful. He's even making up excuses about being dead. Ethan's phone rang too. After he answered, his face filled with guilt, and his voice trembled. Leo, he must be angry with me. What? Was that him on the phone with you just now? Did he threaten you? He clutched his chest, seemingly struggling to breathe. Suddenly, my chest feels so tight it hurts. Victoria's face paled. She left the entire wedding hall of guests staring at each other in confusion. The live stream chat and comments section lit up. So the ex isn't dead, but he's about to talk the new groom to death. He really ruined the wedding after all. I feel so bad for the happy couple. Can the ex-husband just die already? I'm so angry.
So angry.
Ethan had a heart condition and had been on the transplant list for a long time. The doctor said a perfect match had just become available today, and he could have the transplant surgery immediately. Victoria signed the papers without a second thought. Watching him being wheeled into the operating room, she finally let out a breath of relief. Now she finally had time to deal with the real culprit. Leo. His phone still went straight to voicemail. She was furious. The wedding's off. Are you happy now? As she typed, she failed to notice the medical staff pushing a gurney in her direction. For a split second, as they passed, a gust of wind lifted the white sheet, revealing his head. If she had just looked up, she would have recognized him. But at that moment, her attention was completely fixed on her phone. After a long wait, the doctor announced the surgery was a success. Ethan was finally wheeled out and moved to a regular room. The moment he woke up and saw Victoria, he started to cry. It's all my fault. Seeing his fragile state, Victoria's heart ached. She comforted him softly. Don't worry, I'll get the best doctors to help you. The most important thing now is for you to cooperate with them so we can get you out of here as soon as possible. Ethan nodded vigorously, his obedience heart-wrenching. Victoria sighed, deciding to take care of him herself. On the day Ethan was discharged, he insisted on presenting the doctors with a plaque and a thank you letter to show his gratitude. The doctor waved his hand dismissively. If you want to thank someone, thank the volunteer who donated their heart. Ethan tugged on Victoria's sleeve. The doctor's right, honey. Let's try to find the donor. I want to thank him for giving me a second chance at life. Victoria took the doctor's words to heart. A few days later, some friends came over for a small get-together at her estate. Donor information was confidential, but she asked her friend Max to see what he could find out. Max readily agreed. As they chatted, the conversation inevitably turned to Leo. By the way, has your ex-husband stopped pulling his stunts? The story of him trying to ruin her wedding had gone viral. He had become a running joke among her friends. Victoria let out a cold laugh. He's hiding, probably feeling guilty. Someone sighed. Man, I remember how in love you two were. I just don't understand his behavior now. A flash of annoyance crossed Victoria's face. We never had a proper wedding when we got married. And our plans for the 7th anniversary fell through, so he's bitter. But that's no excuse to ruin my wedding with Ethan. The others agreed. Ethan has been with you all these years. We've all seen it. It really hasn't been easy for him. Her friends all called Ethan by his first name. Hearing them stick up for him only strengthened Victoria's resolve. When I find Leo, I'm going to teach him a lesson he'll never forget. Why can't he ever show me a little consideration? She trusted Ethan, but she didn't trust me. The day I went to the hospital for a checkup, I ran into Ethan. Victoria wasn't there. He dropped his usual gentle act and, with a handsome, innocent-looking face, asked loudly, Mr. Johnson, here for a doctor's visit? Don't tell me you're on your last legs. As far as I know, Victoria hasn't slept with you in a long time, right? Then again, while you've been away these past 2 years, I'm the one who's been sharing her bed. The smugness in his eyes was overflowing. It was true. She hadn't touched me in a long time. The last time was over 2 months ago, right after I got back to the country. We went to a family dinner at my in-laws' place. She drank too much and we ended up staying the night. The atmosphere that night was perfect. A reunion after a long separation. We were like newlyweds again, whispering intimately, wrapped up in each other. That one night gave me hope. Ethan snatched the medical chart from my hand, his expression shifting unpredictably. Finally, he leaned in and whispered provocatively, let's make a bet. If she has to choose between you and me, who do you think she'll pick? What? Scared to bet, Mr. Johnson? Besides the empty title of Victoria's husband, what do you really have left? Trust, understanding, love. You have none of it. Why not just step aside and let a better man take over? Ethan then staged a drama of his own creation. He disappeared without a word, blocked everyone, and left behind a single dismissive message. I've made enough money. I'm done playing this game. At first, Victoria didn't think much of it, just held me tight and apologized. She threw herself into planning our 7th anniversary celebration. It was like she had gone back in time, to before Ethan appeared, treating me with tenderness and care. Until one of Victoria's friends found Ethan's new social media account online. Victoria's body trembled as she watched the video over and over, staying up all night. The next morning, her voice hoarse, she told me she had booked a flight to go find him. She was going to bring him back herself. As she was leaving, she handed me a divorce agreement. Leo, let's get a sham divorce for now. Once he's back on his feet, we'll remarry. An icy chill spread through my body, reaching the very top of my skull. I had planned to tell her my condition had improved on our anniversary. I stared at the papers in her hand. Are you absolutely sure about this? Just sign it. I have a flight to catch. She urged me on, impatient. What if I told you Ethan's whole story is a lie? Victoria rubbed her brow, her disappointment palpable. He's been through so much. How can you say that about him? It's true. Then show me the proof. I locked myself in my room for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, I decided to give up on our relationship, to leave her and start over. As I waited for emergency treatment at the hospital, I felt weaker than I ever had before. Maybe my body sensed the crisis and was trying to force me to admit my own vulnerability. Stroking my cold arm, tears streamed down my face. My resolve to leave began to waver. I wanted to live. I had no family left. I didn't want to die alone. I called Victoria's number, but the voice that answered was Ethan's, punctuated by a low chuckle. Mr. Johnson, having another episode? You lost. From now on, your woman is mine. Then he raised his voice. Honey, I think Leo's upset. Does he regret his decision? Maybe you should say a few words to comfort him. Before I could speak, Victoria's sigh came through the phone. Leo, can you just stop making a scene? A dense wave of pain radiated from my heart. My nose stung, and I held back my tears. Is it possible that he's the one who's lying? Do you think everyone is like you? Why would Ethan lie? I froze, speechless. Without my realizing it, Victoria's trust in Ethan had far surpassed her trust in me. She believed every word he said without question. But my words were dismissed as childish tantrums. She had lost all her patience. Just stop it. I don't want to hear it. The child wasn't even hers. I felt lost, numbly signing the surgical consent form the doctor handed me and entering the operating room. But I started bleeding uncontrollably, and they couldn't stop it. The doctor told me to contact my family. I mustered all my strength to call Victoria. I'm at the hospital. Before I could finish, her impatient voice cut me off. No matter what stunt you pull, it won't work. I'm not leaving my own wedding. Leo, what has gotten into you? I heard the sound of my own heart shattering, the pain causing my whole body to tremble. My voice was barely a whisper.
Victoria, I'm dying.
Then go die. And so, Victoria, I did. More than a month after his death, Victoria and the others still hadn't found any trace of him. But the online rumors about him didn't fade with time. Someone finally noticed that the ex-husband had never once responded to the public outcry. Everyone assumed he was hiding out of guilt. There was even a social media campaign to find Victoria's ex-husband. Is this guy a turtle? How can he stay hidden for so long? He caused so much drama, and now that his reputation is ruined, he's tucked his tail between his legs and disappeared. In the lab, the technicians had finished preserving him. Their work was flawless, the specimen was perfect. The skin on his chest and abdomen had been peeled back, clearly revealing the structures within. They gave him a poetic name, Embrace the Moon. He was about to be sent to the city's Museum of Life Science for exhibition. Victoria was having dinner with a few friends. One of them jokingly asked to see the new jadeite piece she'd bought at auction. It was a Buddhist amulet. She said it was for Ethan to protect him and keep him safe. A flawless green jadeite. Must have cost a fortune, right?
Victoria nadie.
I had to outbid a few people at the auction. Cost a bit. Max chimed in, I thought you also bought a priceless Imperial Green watch a couple of days ago. Where's that one? That's the one that's really valuable. That's a 15 million watch. I didn't bring it. That one's for Leo. She paused. His birthday is coming up. A friend teased her. TSK, so you're not mad anymore? You talk a big game, but the moment you see something nice, you buy it for Leo. She retorted, he's still my husband, after all. I'll only give it to him if he comes out and apologizes to my satisfaction. Max's phone rang. You found the heart donor? Great, send it over. After hanging up, he opened a file, his expression growing serious. Victoria, the family contact section. Victoria was toying with the amulet, not even looking up. What? Just send me their contact info. She wanted to thank the donor's family, but only to appease Ethan. Her plan was to just give them a sum of money. That way she, Ethan, and the donor's family would all be satisfied. Max swallowed hard, his voice hoarse. The signature is yours. It's your handwriting. The donor was your husband. Victoria's hand froze. She slowly raised her head. What did you say? Say that again. The donor was Leo. Max repeated himself. The heart Ethan received, it was Leo's. Your husband, he's been gone for a while now. With a sharp crack, the amulet fell from Victoria's hand and shattered into pieces. Victoria snatched the phone from Max, her eyes wide, staring at the screen. Her mouth hung slightly open, her face as white as paper. In the signature block, the ink was blurred by water stains. She remembered now. That was indeed her signature. He had been diagnosed with leukemia years ago. When she got the diagnosis, she cried for a long time in secret, but put on a brave face for him. She even proposed to him in his hospital room, and with their fellow patients as witnesses, they went and got their marriage license. This disease is very treatable, Leo. You just stay here in the hospital, and once you're better, we'll have a wedding. At the time, CRT therapy had just been introduced from abroad and was incredibly expensive, costing over $450,000 for one treatment. For two recent graduates, it was an astronomical sum. A proud and reserved woman, she decided to swallow her pride and go into sales, enduring nightly client dinners where she drank until she developed stomach bleeding. She finally landed a huge contract worth over $3 million. The promised 5% commission, however, turned into a paltry $3,000 from her boss. She knelt and begged him, "This is my husband's life-saving money." Her boss fired her and had security throw her out. It was the first time she'd ever been in a fight. Covered in bruises, she was sent to the hospital. He was still an inpatient at the time. When he heard the news, the 300-yard walk from his room to her ER bay felt like a century. She was lying there, barely breathing, his heart twisted in agony. He immediately checked himself out of the hospital. In the hallway, he saw people promoting anatomical donation and asked for an application form. When she woke up, he casually handed her the form. "Hey, I applied to be an organ donor. I can make a small contribution to society in the future, but it needs a family member's signature. Ms. Lee, would you do the honors?" She tore the form to shreds on the spot. He handed her another one. She gritted her teeth. "You're so young. Organ donation is something for 50 years from now. Besides, we're husband and wife. We're supposed to be together for eternity, in life and in death. Have you forgotten?" He took her hand. "I don't want to give up either. But if this is my fate, I hope I can do my small part to help those in need. When I can't go on, someone will use my heart to experience the world. Someone will use my corneas to see its colors. They'll all be living for me. It's another way for me to exist." Finally, she agreed. As she signed, tears streamed down her face, soaking the paper. She filled out an application for herself, too. "Even if we become anatomical gifts, I want to be by your side." Not long after, her client found out what had happened, canceled the deal with her old company, and insisted that only she could handle the account. They started their own company, and the client's advance payment finally got him that life-saving treatment. Later, their company grew bigger and bigger, earning many times over that initial $450,000. But the woman who had sacrificed her pride for him who had loved him more than life itself, had changed. Victoria, you didn't know about Leo? Victoria slowly sank, as if her soul had been ripped out, collapsing into the chair. No, it's impossible. She trembled all over, shaking her head violently, muttering to herself, how could he be dead? Can't be. The doctor clearly said he had made a full recovery. You must have it wrong. Max, your contact is completely unreliable. Max just watched her quietly as she unraveled. When she finally fell silent, he spoke. There's no mistake, Victoria. I also found Leo's death certificate. He pulled it up on his phone and showed Victoria the document, stamped by the hospital, which clearly stated the time and cause of his death. He passed away from sudden, massive hemorrhaging during emergency surgery. Ha! Victoria looked at Max, not taking the phone he offered her. How could Leo have had surgery? Wasn't his illness cured? Even now, she couldn't believe what he was saying. Victoria, it's true. It says here that Leo had an acute relapse of his leukemia. The date of his death is the same day as your wedding. No wonder Ethan got a heart donor so quickly that day. Victoria snatched the phone from his hand, her eyes wide, afraid to miss a single word. Leo really relapsed. So it was true. When he told me he was sick, I thought he was just trying to compete with Ethan. I didn't believe him. I told him to stop making a scene. Oh God, why are you playing with me like this? She looked crazed, laughing and crying at the same time, slamming her fist on the marble floor. She didn't even notice the blood covering the back of her hand. Victoria, I'm so sorry for your loss. She abruptly scrambled to her feet and bolted for the door. Victoria, wait for me. Victoria drove back to their marital home, a place she hadn't visited in a long time. Ever since deciding to take responsibility for Ethan, she had moved out and into the sprawling estate in the suburbs with him. Everything in the room was as neat and tidy as ever, though a thin layer of dust covered the surfaces. The house looked like it hadn't been lived in for a while. He was always so meticulous about cleanliness. On the balcony, the once lush garden was completely withered. Even his favorite plant, a Scottish white rose, had died. She had given it to him when they first moved to the city. He loved flowers and plants, he could never walk past them. Back then, they lived in a cramped apartment with no balcony. She had gotten a cutting from someone, planted it in a pot, and built a small shelf on the windowsill to hold it. One day, I'll buy you a huge estate with a mansion, and I'll hire gardeners to plant a whole garden full of flowers for you. Under her careful watch, the cutting survived and grew taller and taller. The year it first bloomed, he was diagnosed with leukemia. Victoria cut a bouquet, wrapped it herself, and proposed to him at the hospital. A Scottish white rose for eternal love. Leo, you are the only one for me. No matter what you become, through sickness and in health, I will always be by your side. I'll never leave you. They could finally afford a house, and their homes grew bigger and bigger. They moved several times, and the variety of flowers on their balcony grew. But that one rose was always their most cherished. This year, she had finally bought that 10-acre estate and planted 2 acres of white roses for him. But in the end, all it took was Ethan saying, I like roses too. They always make me happy. For her to move in with him instead. Victoria stood before the withered garden, her thoughts a blank. Victoria, there's a medical file here. It's Leo's. Victoria clutched the folder, her face rigid, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Tucked inside was a stack of papers, lab results and various reports. The paternity test report fell out. She bent down to pick it up. Seeing the information on it, she almost collapsed. Max caught her, and his eyes fell on the report as well. Why does this look so familiar? Victoria's gaze lingered on the report for a long time. Then she rushed to the study and pulled a private investigator's report from a drawer. It was the evidence Leo had prepared long ago. Max's face turned pale. It was he who had found Ethan's social media account and told Victoria about it after Ethan had disappeared. So, Ethan's story about being abandoned was a lie? Victoria, I'm so sorry. I never thought I was making things worse. Max bowed his head like a child who had done something wrong. If I hadn't forwarded you that video of Ethan, you and Leo would still be happy together. It's all my fault. Victoria sat there, stunned, her mind a blank. Her phone rang again. It was Ethan. She glanced at it and immediately declined the call. After a long time, she finally stood up and began to look through his belongings. The bedroom, the closets, all of his personal items were gone. When he decided to leave her, he had packed everything and given it to a friend. Anything useless he had thrown away. She couldn't find a single photograph of him. They rushed to the hospital, hoping to find any final footage of him. Only then did she realize it was the same hospital where Ethan had his surgery. On the day of their wedding, one man began a new life, while the other passed into the next. She was told the security footage was only kept for a month. The time limit had passed. Max requested Leo's medical records from the hospital and found the nurse who had been on duty. Recalling that day, the nurse expressed her regret. The patient was in critical condition, but he was very strong. He even said that if he survived, he wanted to see the white roses he had planted. But after he made a phone call, he seemed to get a shock. His face went completely pale. He signed the consent form without even looking at it. We urged him to reconsider, but he refused and demanded the surgery proceed as soon as possible. Just then, Victoria saw the surgical and resuscitation records. 2 sheets of paper that clearly documented everything from the moment he was wheeled into the OR to the moment he was pronounced dead. 10:25 a.m. Patient begins hemorrhaging during surgery. 10:37 a.m. Blood pressure drops to 80/40 millimeters of mercury. 11:05 a.m. Patient regains temporary consciousness, calls family to discuss condition. Call is disconnected by the other party. Heart rate drops to 40 bpm. Blood pressure unreadable. 11:37 a.m. EKG flatlines, carotid pulse absent. Patient has no spontaneous respiration. She began slamming her fist against her head, then squatted down, covering her face and sobbing. Mr. Johnson's belongings were collected by a friend, who also helped contact the Red Cross. So, Leo didn't leave anything behind? Max immediately realized his mistake and changed the subject. Victoria, did Leo have any close friends? Victoria shook her head. He didn't have many friends. He really didn't have a close circle. His life revolved around her. After his leukemia was cured, they ran the company together, and their acquaintances were all business contacts. Later, he was forced by his doctor to rest due to overwork and stepped back from the company's operations. After that, his social circle became even smaller. Leaving the hospital, Victoria drove to the Red Cross, hoping to find out where he had gone. Halfway there, she got a call from her assistant. "Ms. Lee, we have news on Mr. Johnson's whereabouts." "Where?" The assistant hesitated. "It seems he's at the Museum of Life Science." "Ms. Lee, it's all over the news online. Haven't you seen it?" Her assistant sent her a link to a live stream. She opened it to see a reporter standing in front of a human anatomical specimen. "This anatomical donor next to me, now named Embrace the Moon, is none other than the infamous ex-husband, Mr. Leo Johnson." The reporter looked very familiar. Victoria remembered him. He was the one who had asked if Ethan was a homewrecker. "This guy?" Max replied. "Victoria, I checked. His name is Daniel Young. He's actually a financial reporter. For some reason, he seems very invested in Leo's story. Did Leo ever mention him to you?" Victoria shook her head. Of course she didn't know. In the live stream chat, viewers weren't buying it. So this ex-husband is really dead? Is this real? I have my doubts. I think this reporter is trying to clean up the ex's image. Wasn't he the one who called Ethan a homewrecker last time? Someone should investigate this reporter's credentials. I suspect he's creating a diversion, just picking a random specimen and saying it's the ex. That's an insult to the donor. The camera zoomed in on the specimen, Embrace the Moon. His bones and vascular system were clearly visible. Victoria looked at Max. "Does it look like him? Is it him?" The specimen's face had been preserved in a way that made it unrecognizable. Max shook his head. "The build is similar, but I can't be sure." Victoria rushed to the garage. "I have to go see." An instructor was standing in front of the specimen, telling a group of students the story of Embrace the Moon. The cameraman followed the instructor's words, doing a close-up on each part mentioned. When the camera moved to the chest cavity, the instructor paused, his voice low. I'm sorry, the chest cavity of Embrace the Moon is empty. As per his final wishes, his heart and lungs were transplanted to people in need. According to hospital records, he passed away from sudden complications while battling leukemia. He was a very strong and great man. Victoria was watching the live stream while driving. When she heard the reporter's last words, she slammed on the brakes, crashing into a guardrail. Her head hit the steering wheel, raising a large bump, and blood trickled down her forehead. Max, who had been following her, stopped his car and ran to check on her. Victoria, let me take you to the hospital. Victoria waved him off as he helped her out of the car. Take me to Leo. Now. Max told his driver to step on it, and the car sped towards the museum. Victoria's phone rang. She hung up without looking. It rang again. She glanced at the caller ID and coldly hung up again. Daniel Yang's livestream was still going. Mr. Embrace the Moon was a man with a huge heart. His organs saved a total of 13 patients. During his life, he sponsored many impoverished students and patients with serious illnesses. After his death, he resolutely donated all his assets and himself to society. The livestream chat flew by. This definitely isn't the ex-husband. He doesn't have it in him. The ex was so selfish. No way he'd donate anything. Have some shame. Using a selfless man like Embrace the Moon to impersonate yourself just to clear your name? The camera finally focused on a small placard next to the exhibit, bearing his signature. The world is too beautiful. 20-odd years was truly not enough for me. To all you dear medical students, keep up the good work. I hope that in the future, you can cure all incurable diseases and let future generations suffer less. Leo Johnson. He had written that 7 years ago. Back then, she still loved him so much, and he was full of love for the world. Holy crap, it really is him? Have we been used as pawns? Everyone calm down, it could just be someone with the same name. Exactly, there are lots of people with the same name. The online commenters were skeptical. Max, where did Leo find the channels to sponsor students? I'd like to donate to a few myself. Victoria shook her head. I don't know. He never told me. After the company became profitable, he would donate a sum of money each year to sick children and had also established support relationships with several impoverished students. Daniel and his sister were among the first students he had sponsored. Victoria was always busy with the company. He never mentioned these small acts of charity to her, not wanting to distract her. Later, when she was abroad, her replies to his messages became slower and slower. He thought she was just busy and didn't think much of it, pouring all his energy into charity work. After he returned and discovered the situation with Ethan, they communicated even less. Victoria stumbled into the Museum of Life Science. The reporter had left, and the hall was much quieter. The specimens were all displayed in transparent cases. The moment she saw Embrace the Moon up close, she knew. It was absolutely him. Victoria pressed her hands against the glass case, her body slowly sliding down. She ended up kneeling on the floor. She wrapped her arms around the case, trying to embrace the specimen within. But the glass blocked her. She looked desperately at the lifeless specimen, her whole body shaking. She tried to speak, but only a hoarse, guttural sound came out. Frantically, she started hitting her own head with her fists. Her bizarre behavior drew stares from onlookers. A staff member came over to intervene. "Ma'am, please try to remain calm." Victoria looked up, her eyes filled with grief, unable to say a word. Seeing this, Max explained her relationship to him. The staff member, filled with pity, stopped trying to restrain her. It wasn't until the museum was about to close that she could finally speak. "My husband is gone." Her phone rang again. It was Ethan. This time she didn't hang up. She answered, "Honey, where are you? Still at Max's place? When are you coming back? I had a bit too much to drink. I'll be back soon." Victoria climbed to her feet. Her tone was incredibly calm, but the cold fury in her eyes betrayed her emotions. "Should I come pick you up?" "No, you need to take care of yourself," she replied in a soft, gentle voice. "But Max, standing beside her, shivered. After hanging up, Victoria wrapped her arms around the display case, bidding him farewell. Leo, I have to take care of some things first. Once I'm done, I swear I'll come back and atone for what I've done. Max swallowed, asking cautiously, Victoria, are you okay? Do you want to go somewhere to clear your head? Victoria smiled faintly and walked ahead with a brisk pace, waving her hand. Do I look like I'm not okay? Victoria, why don't we get some friends and go out for a few drinks? No. Can't you see I have things to do at home? What about the cuts on your forehead? Should I take you to the hospital first? By now, Victoria had several bleeding cuts on her forehead. It's fine. Compared to what Leo suffered, this is nothing. The moment Victoria walked in the door, Ethan rushed to greet her. Seeing the injuries on her face, he turned pale and cried out, Honey, what happened to you? It's nothing, I just took a fall. He immediately brought a clean towel to wash her face. Victoria pulled him down to sit. Don't rush. It's not like I'm dying. Don't fuss over me. Be careful with your health. I'm as strong as an ox now. I'm fine. Ethan flashed a reassuring smile. Victoria wrapped her arms around him from behind and asked softly, Ethan, how's your body feeling? He paused, his voice tinged with sadness. I wish I knew, but we're always just a little bit unlucky. It's all my fault. If I were just a little stronger, I wouldn't have gotten so upset when Leo ignored me. Even now, he was still trying to sling mud at Leo. Honey, you don't believe me? I believe you, I believe you. She closed her eyes, a sarcastic smile playing on her lips. That jadeite amulet, I accidentally broke it. What? Ethan couldn't help but cry out. How did it break? Max, he said he found the person who donated your heart. I got so excited, I dropped it. Tell me, is it a bad omen when jade breaks? It means peace from being shattered. Took the bad luck for me. Honey, don't be sad. Victoria's face instantly darkened. Took the bad luck? Do you think a piece of trash like you is worthy? Honey, what is wrong with you? Ha, you have the nerve to ask me what's wrong? She walked over and kicked him hard in the stomach. Ethan clutched his stomach, curling up in a corner, trembling. Stop acting like that. It's disgusting to look at. Do you have anything to confess to me now? Her face twisted into a cruel smile. Did you know that my husband is dead? Ethan's eyes darted away, and he lowered his head. Honey, please don't get agitated. He's dead, and you're walking around with his heart. You must be pretty happy, right? I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't want this to happen. Leo's death was a medical accident. I shouldn't be held responsible. Honey, you should go after the hospital. The couple, inseparable just yesterday, were now bitter enemies. Victoria blamed Ethan entirely for Leo's death. Ethan, in turn, blamed the hospital. It must have been an incompetent doctor who failed to save him in time. Honey, I'll go with you to the hospital and get justice. But he was mistaken. The more he argued, the more he fueled her rage. Victoria just watched him with a gentle expression. He thought he had convinced her and struggled to his feet. Honey, let's go get justice for Leo together. A sharp slap echoed through the room. His face stung. He looked up in shock. Victoria grabbed his chin, a smile playing at the corners of her eyes. Get justice at the hospital? You want me to cause a scene? Leo hated it when people were unreasonable like that. Are you trying to make him look down on me? No, that's not it. Cold sweat beaded on his forehead from the pain. He didn't know Victoria at all. He remembered one time they went to meet a client who tried to grope him. Victoria, with that same serene smile, had invited the client for a smoke. In a surveillance blind spot, she had calmly and smilingly broken the man's groping hand. You still haven't answered my question. What about the child? Why couldn't I find any record of one in your background check? Honey, I was wrong. I just love you so much. Yes, I was jealous of him. Jealous of the beautiful past you two had. Jealous that you wanted the whole world to know he was back. Jealous of how you were running around planning his 7th anniversary. You'll have your child soon enough. She turned on the faucet and shoved Ethan's head into the sink, holding it under the water as he struggled. When his struggles weakened, she let go. Before leaving, She delivered several sharp kicks to his lower body. He clutched his stomach and howled in pain. "Honey, my stomach hurts. Take me to the hospital." Blood began to seep through his pants, more and more. Victoria just watched him coldly until he passed out, then turned and walked away. Under the cover of night, Victoria returned to their marital home. She lay in bed, tossing and turning, scrolling through social media. Someone had posted a long article clearing his name, detailing all his charitable work over the years. Many of the people he had sponsored came forward to support him. At the same time, someone had dug up Ethan's past. He had dropped out of middle school to become a gigolo in a nightclub, and at 18, he was brought to the big city by a sugar mama, whose husband beat him up in the street. Later, he had plastic surgery and returned to his old profession, latching onto Victoria. The exposé was detailed and included many photos. The worst part is, he paid for his own troll army to slander the original husband and sick netizens on him. He's so shameless. How dare he? The husband and the cheating wife weren't even divorced. I've never seen such an arrogant homewrecker. And the key thing is, he's using the husband's heart. It's his own fault for being such a good actor. He used us all as weapons. The one who really deserves to die is the cheating wife. If she hadn't cheated, the husband wouldn't have suffered so much. Victoria read the comments and murmured, "Yes, I'm the one who deserves to die. Leo, just wait a little longer. I promise I will atone for what I've done." Max sent her Daniel Yang's contact information, but as soon as he heard her voice, he hung up. So Victoria went to his apartment early the next morning and waited, finally cornering him as he was about to leave. "Mr. Yang, I'm begging you, please give me Leo's belongings. Isn't this the high and mighty Ms. Li? Since when did you become so humble?" Yang wasn't moved. Victoria dropped to her knees with a thud. "I just want something of Leo's to remember him by." Too late. We followed his last wishes and burned everything. Did he not leave a single word for me? He just wanted you to stay far away from him. That was his final wish. After she hung up on him, he had called Lin, Daniel Yang's sister. They were the first students he had ever sponsored. It was shortly after his leukemia had gone into remission and his company had just started turning a profit. Lin was sick and couldn't afford treatment. Daniel and their grandmother were begging on the street. Her surgery wasn't that expensive, about 10,000. He happened to have it, and seeing himself in their struggle, he paid for her surgery. Lin was the one who was with him at the very end. Leo's final wish was to cut all ties with you, to never see you again in life or in death. Also, his shares in your company have all been donated to a charitable foundation. Someone will be in touch to handle the transfer soon.
Victoria nodded.
I understand. Since it's his wish, I will honor it completely. Victoria donated all her shares in the company to charity. Shortly after making this decision, she was arrested. When they came for her, she was at the Museum of Life Science, kneeling before his specimen. In her hand was the jadeite watch she never got to give him. When the police arrived, she was calm and surrendered without a fight. It was Ethan who had reported her. The cleaning lady had found him barely alive. At the hospital, he was diagnosed with a shattered pelvis, internal organ damage, permanent infertility, and a fractured spine. He would be bedridden for the rest of his life. When Victoria heard about his condition, she paused for a moment, then began to laugh, tears streaming down her face. He better live a long, long life. After all, he's using Leo's heart. As they took her away, she begged the police and museum staff to let her touch him one last time. I just want to put this watch on him. Her request was denied. She was sentenced to 5 years for aggravated assault. In prison, she attempted suicide and wrote a will, stating she wanted to donate her body. But she was saved. After that, she started acting erratically, always muttering Leo's name to herself. After her release, she finally succeeded in killing herself. Afraid of being found too late, she specifically hung herself in a hospital. A suicide note was next to her, but it was still too late. She was discovered several hours later, and her organs were no longer viable for donation. Her parents refused to donate her body and had her cremated. From now on, for generations and lifetimes to come, They would never meet again.